Hi everyone, welcome to the booth at Createx Colors. I'm Chris Arpin, and in this video we are going to talk about and discuss our 4053 high gloss clear coat, our UVLS high gloss. This is a newer product for us this year, and we are very pleased with the level of gloss that we were able to achieve. So we're going to kind of quickly go over that and talk about the uses, where it fits in, application techniques, kind of an overview of what this product is. So right in front of me, we'll get right into it. Right in front of me, I have some samples. If you are familiar with our other line or other products in the UVLS line, we have our 4052, that is our matte. Our 4051, that is our satin finish. Our 4050 gloss, and our 4053 high gloss. So it kind of gives you a nice representation of the overall sheen of what we were able to achieve. Now I know on camera that it's possible that the 4050 and the 53 are similar, but believe me, the 4053 is certainly a wetter looking, richer finish than our 4050. So where this product fits in terms of a top coat, again, this is our shiniest, our glossiest, our highest gloss level product to date. And one of the ways that we are able to determine that, I have in front of me here, this is a product that we use here. This is a portable version of it. We have a gloss meter. So when we develop all of these products, we are constantly spraying and testing and determining the level of gloss. So this is a 3-angle gloss meter, and what it does is it measures the refraction of light at a 20-degree angle and a 60-degree angle. It measures higher, but the higher angle is actually for flat and satin finishes. So the 20-degree and 60-degree angle is what we're actually measuring. So we're not just looking at this by eye, we're actually measuring it and comparing it to other products. And one of the things while we were developing the 4053 is we were comparing it to a 2K urethane. And that's always been kind of the standard in terms of that show level gloss. And I have it in front of me also, in a past video we did, this is our flare video. This is a 2K over the top of this flare blue-violet color, and this is our 4053 over the same color. This is a blue-violet as well. So this is 4053 versus a 2K. So we are very pleased in terms of that level of gloss that you're able to achieve. Where does this fit in terms of all of our UVLS products? It is we still consider an architectural grade product. It's an interior-exterior grade. We would like to see it in cosplay. You can use it in fine art applications, modeling, sculpture, that type of work. It works really well on wood as well, so any kind of interior-exterior kind of woodworking and products like that. So it is very extensive in terms of what you can and cannot do with the product. One thing I want to touch on is we are considering this 53, the 4053, as a top coat and a top coat only. If you're familiar, again, with other videos that we've done on the UVLS line of products, the 4050 is where we still kind of point you guys to in terms of using it for candies, using it as an inner coat and an adhesion promoter. We are happy with the performance of the 4050, and that's where that falls in. That 4050 is a little bit more universal in terms of what you can do with it. So the 4053 essentially, again, is just, it falls in the same category as that 52 and that 51 in terms of it's a top coat. That's what we want to see it used as. We want a top coat product. Application, 0.5 is the smallest tip size that we want to see you guys using, only because this is a clear product. It is spray. It does spray similar to a heavier bodied 2K clear. So it's got a little bit of body to it. So a 0.5 would be the smallest. I have in front of me a TH2. This is a 0.7. This is a great little gun, especially for smaller type applications. I also have in front of me an LPH 80. So this is a 1.2 with an E4 cap. Great, again, great little gun for that. And then we're stepping up basically to a larger spray gun from here. So anything above this size is going to spray extremely well. But 0.5 is kind of generally the smallest size we want to see, only because of the atomization of the product. It's very thick, so it's not going to spray like if you're used to our other line, anything across the Createx line of paints. It's got a little more body to it. So reduction, right, and spraying it, 10%. That's where we want you to be. If you are using a 0.5, it might be necessary to go slightly higher, 15 to 20%, but that's kind of the maximum. Anytime you're using a spray gun, 10%. That's where we want you to be. If you've watched other videos that we've had, we always say 10 to 15 minutes of that acclimation period in terms of mixing your reducer and letting it sit on your bench for about 10 to 15 minutes. Just lets everything kind of marry together, get a nice even mixture, and break down the surface tension of that paint before you start to spray. So while we're talking about that, I'm going to go ahead and actually we'll take a break, I'll grab a mixing cup, and we'll mix up some 4053. I'll show you guys how to mix it. I'll show you guys what I want in terms of the viscosity of the reduction, and then we'll spray a little bit. So stay tuned, we'll be right back. Okay guys, welcome back. We are ready to mix up. Got my cup here. If you guys are familiar with these are PPS cups. These are the PPS 2.0 system. That's what we use here, so it's pretty convenient. We're going to go 10% right here, so shake the can well. We're going to go right around 4 ounces of clear. I have a small little panel that we're going to kind of do just a demo on it, and you guys can see what that looks like in terms of how we spray and how we want you to put application wise. So 4011, again, 4011, this is our go-to reducer. This is what we recommend across the board with all of our products, and you will have the best result with 4011 reducer in all of these clears. So that's kind of our go-to. We can't stress that enough. 10% on 4 ounces is right about there. So you mix this very well. This is not, water-based products are not like a solvent in terms of when you hit it with a reducer, it doesn't really break it down immediately. You kind of have to let it work a little bit, like I mentioned before, kind of marry in and do its thing. So we're going to get this stirred up really well here before, and I'll show you guys what I mean about viscosity and kind of how I want this to look off the stick. I want that nice, even flow off the stick. You don't want it to hang, you don't want it to be drippy. If it's drippy, it's way too thin. If it's hanging, you're going to have a difficult time kind of atomizing. I mean, hanging is really slow off the stick, kind of like molasses. So that's kind of the sweet spot right there, the 10%. We're going to set this aside, let this sit for about 10, 15 minutes, and you will notice a difference in performance. I know we've done other videos, we've always talked about it, but you will notice a difference if you were to spray this right away as opposed to letting it sit for 10, 15 minutes. It just a better mixture. That's what we recommend. So I'm going to we're going to use a full-size spray gun, and I have a panel. I'll get the panel over here while we're waiting, and when we come back, we'll spray some clear. All right, guys, welcome back. It has been about 15 minutes. Got my clear on my gun, ready to spray. I have the panel here. This is actually our Wicked Metallic Fastback Green. So it's a pretty cool color, kind of underrated color. I figured I would show it off. I taped the bottom off just so we can see the difference between the uncleared version versus the cleared. So we'll spray some clear on the top of this. We'll do 3 coats of clear. Basically, this is going to spray the same as a urethane clear or any other of our UVLS products in terms of want to keep a nice wet edge, medium wet. So when I talk about medium wet, I want to see just a slight blue tint, not milky, not hammered on where it's like cloudy looking. You just want a medium, nice wet coat. And just a slight tint of blue to that, and that's kind of your indicator to like a guide coat in terms of knowing how much material you want to put on. And then just a 50% overlap. So 50% meaning if my first pass is here, I want my second pass to be right there, my third, all the way up. So 50% in terms of your fan pattern overlap. So the other thing is dry. I'm going to talk about it again, but dry between coats. So we don't want to see you put this wet on wet or almost dry. You don't want it, it's not like a clear where you want to touch it and see that it's stringy or tacky or anything. You want it totally dry. You should be able to touch this between coats, and that's going to give you the best result. So this is coat number 1. Hey guys, we are back. Coat number 1 is dry. It's been about 15 minutes. It's dry to the touch, and that's exactly what I want to see, and that's, if you guys remember what I talked about, I can't stress that enough. One of the benefits of that, I kind of want to show you right now. It doesn't look extremely shiny right now because, keep in mind, this is a metallic, so there's like a little bit of a texture because of that metallic. So there's going to be a couple coats for this to build up before you really start to level that surface and really get that deep gloss. So just keep that in mind when you're spraying. Your first coat, again, that's why I can't stress, you don't want to hammer this on. Just because this is a water-based product does not mean you still can't run the risk of having what we call solvent pop or a dieback issue, which is mostly a solvent-related thing. But you can't do the exact same thing with a solvent paint. You can't put your first coat of clear on and really hammer on that heavy wet first coat, because it's only going to cause problems in the long run. So this is going to be the same issue. You want a medium wet coat. You saw how I put that on, just a slight blue cast. But one of the benefits of letting this totally dry, aside from the fact that I want you to, is you can actually go ahead, and if you had an imperfection of something you didn't like, and don't use your bare hands, this is just a demo, but you can actually go ahead and sand that out. This is a piece of 1000. This is a 1000 grit dry. And I'm just gonna go ahead and wipe a spot here. But this is totally dry. It is not clogging my paper. It powders right up. So I could go ahead and literally go after anything that I had on here. If there was texture or something fell in it, or you had dust, or whatever the case, and you could continue on. So you could tack this off, blow it off, and continue on to your next coat. So that is a huge benefit of using a product like this, is being able to do that. You could do that between every coat if you wanted to. If it was really textured or you wanted to level something, you could lightly go ahead and knock that down and then keep going on to your next coat. So I'm gonna grab a tack rag real quick. Get that wiped down. If you guys are wondering, these are water-based specific tack rags from a company called Gerson. They're the Ultra Prep tack rag. It's a water-based specific, but you can use it across the board on anything. So that's all wiped down, ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and spray coat number 2. All right, guys, welcome back. We got 3 coats, totally dry. Went ahead and did that last coat while we were away. And you can see here, this is the piece that I taped off in terms of glossy and not glossy. That's the fastback green with no clear coat over the top of it. And one thing I do want to touch on, as I was untaping this, it actually probably looks a little bit better here than when I was actually untaping it. And why I recommend, or why we recommend, the 4053 as a top coat only, in terms of if you're doing it for graphics or like an inner coat or anything like that, the candies like we talked about mixing. This was kind of a bear with the edge that I had that created a bridge over my tape line. So I just kind of want to drive that point home. Again, I know I mentioned it real quick, but the 4050, our UVLS 4050, is still what we recommend for mixing in your metallics and your pearls at around 20-25%, using it in the candies, the candy carrier, and using it as your adhesion promoter or / inner coat and all that type of thing, because it is a little bit easier in terms of taping and creating a nice clean tape edge versus this product, the 4053, that again is like an edge-to-edge complete panel, overall type of a clear coat, just like we recommend for our sealers as well. Sealers will work better overall edge-to-edge across the panel rather than fine intricate tape work, because it has the same characteristics in terms of that taping. It's kind of a bear to kind of get a nice clean line. So now that this is totally dry, we're going to talk about sanding, buffing, polishing, and all that. So I can tell you, if you dry sand this, it sands extremely well, obviously. If you give it enough time. We did 3 coats. My minimum would be about 4 hours to dry sand and polish this. Just as long as you have good airflow, good air movement, and your temperatures are kind of consistent with what we want. Right around 70 degrees is optimal. If it's a little bit colder, that's fine, as long as your humidity levels are not extremely high. That's going to dictate how fast this dries. So a little bit of air movement is going to help. And another thing I want to talk about, which I did kind of mention when I was spraying, air movement. I kind of like letting this product, because it is a clear, kind of dry on its own before I force dry. And when I say force dry, I mean the air dryers, the volumizers, the little blowguns. What I don't want you guys to do is spray a coat of clear down and immediately put your gun down and reach for that air mover, because you're kind of forcing it to do something, just like spraying a solvent clear coat. You wouldn't spray a coat of clear and then go right to your bake cycle and really heat it up. You kind of want to let it do its thing naturally, kind of dehydrate on its own. And then that last, couple minutes, just move a little bit of air, you can force dry it there. Well, usually when I see that blue tint starting to go away, when it starts to get a little more clarity, it's okay to start moving air. So just food for thought, keep that in mind, don't just immediately pound on air and try to force it to do something. You can create something similar to like a solvent pop, like we talked about in terms of a solvent clear coat. And that's just, you're forcing the product to do something too fast. You know, there is kind of a time window there in terms of letting it kind of just naturally do what it's doing. It's going to settle down a little bit. It's going to flow out a little bit and move smoother. So just don't force dry it. So again, 4 hours if you're going to sand and polish this. That's dry. Optimally, if you're going to wet sand this, we talk about wet sanding. We kind of prefer a damp sanding method, meaning you can get this wet and you can sand it, but you don't want to puddle it like you typically would like a solvent clear coat, right? The problem is standing water might start to soften this a little bit within that time window in terms of doing it, you know, in a 12, 24-hour time period. So damp sanding. So just, you can use water to sand this, absolutely, and then just keep it dry as you're doing it, whether you squeegee it or if this is a vertical surface, you'd be able to just kind of, water's going to come to the bottom. You just don't want to have water pooling in a spot where it's going to start causing you a little bit of issue. So everything else aside from that in terms of the technique is very similar, actually exactly similar to wet sanding and polishing a 2K clear. So I'm going to get the table kind of cleaned off and we'll tape off a few sections. I'll show you guys just polishing what we can do, just the raw clear with just hitting it with a polisher just to bring up the shine a little bit more, and then we'll cover a little spot, we'll do a wet sand and buff. So stay tuned, we'll get everything out and get reset up and we'll start polishing.